Well, hello and welcome to Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. Now, there's going to be all sorts of interesting revelations in the next 30 seconds to a question that every mechanic in the world has asked, I'm sure, and that is, how do you reattach a steering wheel off a Mercedes W124 that's been removed for restoration? The car itself is an absolute beauty. This is an E500 Limited. There is only one car that is more extremely rare of this genre than this, and that was the E60 AMG, which this car is not. But this car is still very, very special. It's one of the last 500 E500s. It was only available in two colours, Astral Silver or Sapphire Black, as it's called, this very, very dark and lovely blue metallic. Not quite as dark as Mercedes-Benz Blue Black, which was a standard colour at the time. A lot of 190 Cosworths were finished in blue black, but this colour is particular. There was a run, very few of them, of the last 500 done in this Sapphire Black. And this car is in stunningly good condition. It really is. It's a very discerning customer. He's got a collection of cars. What is the mileage on this car? It's 83,000 kilometres. So 51,000 miles-ish. But of course, this car, it was a lifesaver for Porsche, particularly in the late 80s and early 90s, because Mercedes-Benz said, we need a super saloon. Of course they did. A fire-breathing monster in sheep's clothing, and that's what this is, really. It's got the 5-litre, the M119 engine out of the 500 SL, the R129 that sort of succeeded the 107, R107, the Dallas Mercedes, as I call it. Bobby Ewing, I think, drove one. And that model was replaced by a very avant-garde car in 1989, 1990. And the engine was quite a technical tour de force. It was a 4-cam, 32 valve, 5-litre V8, and it developed 326 brake horsepower. And then a lot of manufacturers in the 90s actually were a bit sneaky. Ferrari fall into this category, Mercedes-Benz. What they did was, Mercedes-Benz, due to emissions laws and to do with just efficiency generally, they brought out another 5-litre V8, which was used in the later R129s. And that was a 3-valve per cylinder, 2 inlets, 1 exhaust, twin spark engine, which was a 5-litre. But what Mercedes-Benz didn't tell you was it developed less power than the engine of this generation. So it went from 326 brake horsepower to 308. But they would argue that it was more than made up for by increased efficiency in the automatic transmission. But the net result is the later cars didn't have the grunt of the cars with this engine. So this is a great engine. It's got 2 twin ignition systems, one for each bank, and the great big rotor arms and distributor caps under covers on the front of the engine, which are, if you have any running problems with that engine, look there first, because they are critical. The rotor arms and distributor caps. I've replaced so many of them over the years. But this obviously endowed this car. This is round about 1.5 tons, or even a shade under. It gave it really, really impressive performance for the time. This was a Bahnstormer, a super saloon, all the other things that come to mind. And Porsche, as I say, developed this car for Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz gave them a W124 standard mid-range saloon that became the E-Class. Porsche went to work on it, suspension, brakes, drivetrain, that whopping great V8, and also famously flared the wheel arches to accept wider rubber. And the funny thing is, they sort of made Mercedes-Benz a hostage to fortune, because when they put them on the production line, the Porsche developed car, complete with its flared front arches, when they put it on the Mercedes production line, they realised they couldn't actually fit it along the line, because various gantries to fit parts on the car were narrower than the wheel arches. So we've got an ordinary 124 next door, actually, a more normal one. We can have a look at the difference between the wheel arches on that and the wheel arches on this. Well, this is a cooking W124 saloon, which was a real staple of Mercedes in the 80s, the mid to late 80s. In fact, it was a very, very good car, very solid car. But look, slight flared wheel arch, admittedly, but nowhere near the same as the E500. That was what caused them so many problems. This wheel is almost flush with that wheel arch there. But obviously with the wider wheels and tyres, it would be out here. They had to send these cars from Mercedes, they had to paint up the body shells, send them to Porsche for some building up, then send them back to Mercedes for some more building up, and then send them back to Porsche for final assembly, and then back to Mercedes for quality control. I mean, it's like an Airbus wing. It's actually been about 3 times around the world by the time it actually marries up with the aircraft. But a logistical bit of craziness, but it saved Porsche. It gave them something to get hold of, really, when they badly needed it, when the yuppie bubble burst in the very late 80s and early 90s. One of the facets of the E500 Limited is this crazy leather. It just looks like somebody's literally sprayed it with a piece of paper or something, using it as a stencil. I don't know. It'd be interesting to look at another one and see if the figuring is exactly the same. But this looks as though somebody's just gone tsh, 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 with a can almost, and then lacquered it with a lacquer. But nevertheless, the design is interesting. They did 4 colours of this leather craziness, only in the 500e Limiteds, and all the woodwork in the car, whereas it would be Zebrano, which was pretty standard fare for Mercedes around that time. A very figured and striped wood, lines of grain and stripe. What they did was use bird's eye maple, which, for example, Bentley used and Rolls-Royce at the time. More Bentley than Rolls-Royce, actually, which is a light wood with a speckled finish. And what Mercedes-Benz decided to do to make it a bit different was to use bird's eye maple, but to put a tinter in the varnish that goes over the top. So instead of being light, it has this dark figuring and this dark graining, which is actually really lovely. The problem with this car, it's just been in for a couple of routine jobs. It's in beautiful condition, but the steering wheel, the bird's eye maple veneer, was starting to split. So we've had this steering wheel refurbished by Paul at Myrtle, wood and steering wheel, well, more steering wheel repairs and refinishes and restorers, and they have done an absolutely magnificent job. It was split on the top edge here, so when you were driving it, you could feel the sharp edge on your fingers, which this is the main interaction with the car when you're driving it. It wasn't pleasant, but they've done an absolutely first-class job of repairing that. The customer is going to be so happy. Because he noticed it and it bothered him. While it's here, I've got to give it a run and unleash that 326 brake horsepower. But I think we'd better fit this first, don't you? Now, as I say, this is obviously something that's kept countless people awake at night, really. Refitting this is, it does help. And Mercedes-Benz have very kindly put a little blip on this extremely splined wheel. There we are. And we put a bit of thread locker on the retaining bolt, as Mercedes-Benz did originally. Whoop, there we go. This is a very fine thread, which means I will spend the next 5 years winding this in. Slight exaggeration noted. So this is the earth. And they're also different sizes, so that, there we go, it is just about impossible to get them mixed up. Et voila. Well, I can tell immediately, it's a few weeks since I've driven a normal, not limited E500, but this to me feels firmer. The ride, I can feel every ripple in the road in this car, which I don't remember doing in the other one. Now there is mention on the internet about the last, and it's 500 cars, the limiteds. There is mention of them being altered. The ride height is even lower. than the normal E500, and it's quite possible, I think they also increased the size of the brake discs, and I think they've probably tweaked the suspension as well, because this feels rather more bumpy, let's use that adjective, than the old one. But obviously this is even more focused. And the other thing, belying the car's sort of taxi cab, the 124 was massively popular as a taxi cab, and why not? It was a very, very well engineered car. But you can't adjust the steering column, and I'm actually having to squint down to look at the gauges, because this part of the newly reconditioned, beautifully refurbished wheel rim is right in the way of the instrument panel. But hey, that's not what this car is about. This car is about this. That is what I'm talking about. Just effortless acceleration. As I mentioned earlier, this engine is more gutsy than the later 5-litre V8, which can feel flat in the mid-range, so it hasn't got that much torque, and compared to this, I don't think it has. Oh yeah, the turn-in is fantastic on this car. Absolutely amazing. That's where the suspension, it's a trade-off, but yeah, this car turns in impeccably, actually. And what I was saying earlier about car manufacturers sort of degrading power outputs and torque outputs without actually telling anybody, when the Ferrari 355 came out in 1995, just to get nerdy for a moment, it had the Bosch 2.9 Motronic engine management system on it, and then with ever tightening emissions things and just obsolescence and one thing and another, the later 355s went on to a Motronic 5.2, and they were actually less powerful than the earlier cars. But did Ferrari tell anybody? No. It's amazing. This is a recirculating ball steering box, so this is an old-fashioned steering box. It's not rack and pinion. In fact, Mercedes, when they brought the 210 out, the successor to this E-Class, they actually, one of the big things was the fact that they'd finally gone to rack and pinion steering. I'm just going to do a bit of spirited cornering in this car. So here we go, left foot braking, set the car up, accelerate. This car absolutely belies its saloon origins. It really is. That extra suspension tweak on the Limited, which I am sure they've done, has made the world of difference. And the other thing is how quiet the exhaust is on this car. It is a perfectly civilized 4-seat saloon. They altered the rear seat arrangements on this car, and it's actually not a bench seat, it's 2 individual back seats. But the refinement, suspension firmness notwithstanding, the refinement is amazing on this car. It's so quiet. Let's just have a little fun here. Turn in, straight round the corner, no problem at all. Absolutely incredible road holding this car's got. Incredible. Just fantastic. If this car has a USP, it is the road holding, because it is truly amazing. But yeah, very quiet. I suspect drive-by, because this was a production car, even though it was only 500 of them, the exhaust system I suspect is identical to the E500 that came before it, the ordinary quote-unquote one, probably because of homologation and European drive-by noise regulations. Like the Porsche 911, one of the reasons why Porsche went from air-cooled to water-cooled on the 993-996 changeover. Again, I'm just going to give it some look at that. Just incredible, like it's on rails. One of the reasons why Porsche went on to the water-cooled engines was noise, drive-by noise regulations. Not the only one, far from it, but it was certainly a contributing factor. Gotta love this car. If you were going to drive from here to the south of France, preferably on some route nationales instead of the Autoroute du Soleil, the dual carriageway or the motorway, this is the perfect car for it. It's a continent-crushing car, this. It really is. The owner himself is a driver of some note of this car. That's why I'm able to push it a bit, because he will be okay with that. You ready? Here we go. Left foot brake. Just magnificent. Absolutely amazing. I was taught to the technique of left foot braking in an automatic car some years ago by Roddy Harvey-Bailey, the suspension engineer, good friend, over some years ago, and he taught me that to get the best out of a car like this, an automatic saloon, here we go again, just because we can. He taught me that the best thing, actually part of it, is to stabilise the car. Just give the left foot a tab on the brakes, and then the car is set up for the bend, and then you just squeeze the throttle as much as the grip will allow to get you out of the corner. Don't try it at home unless you had personal tuition from a racing driver. That would be my advice. Yeah, gotta love this car. It's absolutely amazing. It is a true wolf in sheep's clothing. I give you the Mercedes E500 Limited. Well, I have to say, please remember to subscribe. It is very important. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with something else very soon.